I got to kick this thing off. Can I kick it off? 1, 2, 3, 4. Ladies and gentlemen, listen.
Today we got with us Attorney Natasha Sarah-Lorraine. How you doing today?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, Tell everybody about yourself, where you reside at, and we'll get into why we have you on the show in a little bit. But go ahead and tell everybody about yourself.
Definitely. Well, shout out to Man Listen. Thank y'all for having me on tonight. My name is Natasha Sarah-Lorraine. I'm an attorney in Atlanta. I'm from Chicago originally, and I've been practicing for a few years. And a lot of my efforts most recently on social media has been about voter education and voter suppression avoidance. I think that's why we're here today to talk about that, because we got some really important things on the horizon that we got to educate the people about. We got to let the people know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I was so proud of the state of Georgia and what they did. Of course, at the time of this recording, they're still counting the votes, but it looks like President-elect Joe Biden probably will turn that state blue. And I want to give all props to Stacey Abrams and the work that she did with voter registration, because
She did that.
we all know that the election for her, when she ran for governor, it was stolen from her with the shenanigans, with her opponent being Secretary of State, and that whole conflict,
counting his own vote. Yeah.
that whole conflict of interest. You know, so she got good revenge with this deal right here. So I'm really proud of the state of Georgia. But you guys have a runoff election, right? Tell our people about that.
Yes. Yeah, we have a runoff election that will be on January 5th. It's a very, very important runoff election. This will essentially determine who has control over the Senate. Right now, I think the Senate is maybe 2 seats away from being 50-50 Republican Democrat. Right. And if these two candidates, because there's 2 runoffs that's going on in Georgia on January 5th, if the 2 Democrat candidates prevail on January 5th, there will be a 50-50 split in the Senate, which will then cause the Vice President-elect, my soror, Kamala Harris, to be the tiebreaker. So these are very, very important runoff elections that are coming up in Georgia. And you're right, you know, Georgia is on the brink of turning blue. They are still counting the votes. They're actually recounting the votes. I'm not sure if a lot of people are aware, but the Secretary of State is a Republican, Brad Raffensperger, and he has been under extreme fire for the past week about the counts here in Georgia. They were so pissed, they meaning the Republicans, they even asked him to resign 2 days ago. Wow. He refused to do that. Okay. And so
stop the count.
Yes, all of that. Oh, there's fraud. Stop the count. I saw an article headline today that said dead people were voting in Georgia. Like, for real? Like, they're just pulling all types of shenanigans and rabbits out of their hat. Like, next thing you know, they're gonna say dogs voted too. Right. So it's just a lot of trifling things going on. So I'm hoping that noise does not deter people from the upcoming election, because runoff elections can be very difficult for you to regalvanize or re-energize people to come back out and vote. Right. And typically in Georgia, Democratic candidates that go to the runoff are not as successful. So we got to make sure we keep the momentum going.
So explain to people why there's a runoff. I understand if you don't, in the state of Georgia, if you don't get, is it 51% or 50% of the vote?
It's weird the way that they describe it. So essentially, to start at the basics, a runoff is a rematch between you and your top vote getter. So the top 2 candidates from the previous election will advance to a runoff if in Georgia, and there are 6 other states that also follow under this policy, if you do not get 50% plus 1 vote, you are not considered the winner. And so then the top two candidates, so you can get 48%, you can get 49, you can get 46, whoever has the top two percentages of votes, the top two candidates advance to the runoff election. And it's pretty much a clean slate. Everyone goes out, they vote again, and then from that election, they determine who the winner is.
So the two candidates that are running on the Democratic ticket, did they get the majority of the votes on the first election, or were they carried by President-elect Joe Biden, or were they the second place winner? Do you know?
I do know that the top two candidates that are on the Democratic ticket that are going to the runoff, you got John Ossoff, and then you have Reverend Raphael Warnock. And Warnock will be going up.
He's frat.
Yeah, he is frat, yes. And he's the pastor of the historic church, Ebenezer Baptist Church. You know, U.S. Congressman, the late Congressman John Lewis, his funeral was just there recently. And Reverend Warnock has been very instrumental in the community for years. So he is a great candidate. He has a great platform, and I'm really excited for what he can do for Georgia. He will be going against Kelly Loeffler. And Kelly Loeffler, she was actually just appointed by Governor Kemp to sit in the Senate seat that she actually be running to keep in the runoff election. John Ossoff, he will be facing David Perdue. A lot of you all may remember David Perdue because a couple of weeks ago, he made the news by purposely mispronouncing Kamala's name, Vice President-elect Kamala's name. I think he was on the mic saying Kamala, Mala, Mala, Mala. I don't know if you remember seeing that clip. Yeah, that's him. He is the Republican candidate that's going against John Ossoff. Both of the races were pretty tight, were pretty neck and neck, but I'm really, really crossing my fingers and hoping that everyone keeps the same momentum and energy and goes out to vote for this runoff election, because it's so important that we get the 50-50 split in the Senate.
And that's why I wanted you on the show, because it is very important, because, you know, we're able to get 45 out of office, right? And we as Black people, Black women, Black men, we were the people who turned out to make sure that they were able to win this election. So it's time for us to be able to see a return on our investment. Voting is investment, in my personal opinion. So in order for us to make sure that we actually see that, we have to make sure that we put them in a position where there is no excuses. So if you have Mitch McConnell in the Senate constantly being an obstructionist and trying to block anything that happens, there are executive orders, because we've seen how 45 it is. There are executive orders that can be done, but it is much better if you have both houses and the executive branch. So that's why I wanted to do this show and bring you on, because I wanted somebody to be able to talk about it intelligently, so that we can bring the focus and motivate people and educate them. Okay, this is why it's important, and this is why you can't just sit at home now. You know, you were fired up for the presidential election. You need to be fired up for this.
Right, you got to keep it going.
Yeah, because this is actually just as important for us as Black people. So what are the specific dates that people need to know about in terms of, like, can people still register? When is early voting? Do they have early voting for runoffs? What are those dates?
Yeah, so you can still register to vote. The deadline to register is December 7th.
Okay.
So if you are not registered to vote, please make sure that you go out and register to vote. You can do so via the Secretary of State website, My Voters page. There is early voting. There's also mandatory Saturday voting. Early voting starts on December 14th and it ends on the 31st. And the mandatory Saturday voting is December 26th. And the actual runoff election date is January 5th. So it is critical that people vote. And you can still vote via absentee ballots. You can still use that as, you know, your mode of casting your ballot for this runoff election. But I really hope, like you said, people do see this show and keep the same energy going, because it's so important to have some sort of control over the Senate as the president. You want to have a productive presidency. And if you don't have the control, or at least a 50-50 split, which hopefully we will get, you're going to run into all this opposition, and you're not going to really be able to put forth the policies that you were voted into office to facilitate.
Yeah.
So it's very critical that everyone gets out, they vote, let your voice be heard.
Okay, all right. So we'll make sure that we share those dates. You've been doing an awesome job of educating and informing people about.
Thank you.
And we want to make sure that we share that information with everybody, because everybody got somebody in Atlanta. Everybody, my best friend lives in Atlanta. Everybody knows somebody in Atlanta. And, you know, for people outside,
Atlanta's the place to be.
Yeah, for people outside of Georgia, when they think about Georgia, they just think about Atlanta. But it's those little small towns like Columbus, Box Springs, all them little bitty towns that they need to come out as well.
They do. When I first moved to Georgia, you know, I thought Atlanta was Georgia until I went to law school and I moved to Middle Georgia. I'm like, oh, Atlanta has you fooled. Atlanta's making you think that this is how Georgia operates, but no, it is typically a red state.
Still Georgia.
And these people go hard for Republican candidates. They go hard for the Confederate flag. They go hard for Trump. So yeah, folks cannot get comfortable. They got to stay uncomfortable. They got to come up. They got to get out and vote, and grab somebody else to come vote with you. If you know someone that didn't vote in the general election, okay, have them come out and vote in the runoff. Make sure that they get registered to vote. Yeah, we all need to be on the same page and get out and make sure that we let our voices be heard.
Absolutely.
It's do or die.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now tell people where they can find you.
So you can find me on Instagram at Attorney NSLB. And I'm also on Facebook at Natasha Sarah-Lorraine. Follow me on Instagram. I post a lot of videos. Sometimes I post quick vids on my stories. And also just some quick images that help educate people about important dates or just important information you need to know about the law or voter education. So come follow me. Come on.
All right. Well, Attorney Natasha Sarah-Lorraine, we definitely appreciate you coming on the Man Listen Show, and we'll definitely have you back. You know, because we need somebody who is informed about politics. I know you're not just confined to Georgia; you know a lot about everything. So we'll definitely invite you to come back.
From your lips to God's ears.
we wish you much success, and again, thank you for coming on the show.
No problem. Thank you for having me. Blessings to all of y'all.
All right.